That's how love starts, ya know. Momo Ayase believed in spirits, the kind that lingered in old shrines and whispered in the wind. Ken Takakura, who she insisted on calling Okarun, believed in little green men and high-tech saucers from the stars. In the middle of their high school hallway, they pointed fingers and exchanged heated words. "Ghosts are real, you occult nerd," Momo shouted. Okarun adjusted his glasses, his face turning red. "Aliens are a mathematical certainty, Ayase. Ghosts are just hallucinations." To settle it, they made a bet. Each would visit a site associated with the other's obsession. Okarun took the short straw and headed to the M-City Tunnel, a place whispered to be the hunting ground of the legendary Turbo Granny. The air inside was thick and damp, smelling of wet concrete and age. He held his flashlight tight, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. "No such thing as ghosts," he whimpered to the shadows. Suddenly, a blur of motion zipped past his feet. A hunched, elderly figure appeared out of the darkness, her face a terrifying mask of speed and malice. It was the Turbo Granny, and she was faster than any human had a right to be. Meanwhile, Momo arrived at the abandoned hospital on the hill, a supposed hotspot for UFO sightings. She marched through the overgrown gates, her heels clicking on the cracked pavement. "Aliens? Please. If anything is here, it's a restless soul," she muttered. But as she reached the rooftop, the sky didn't reveal a ghost. Instead, a beam of blinding, clinical light descended from the clouds. Tall, lanky figures, with elongated heads and skin the color of lead, stepped out of the shimmer. The Serpoians had arrived, and they didn't look friendly. Before Momo could even reach for her phone, the Serpoians moved with mechanical precision. They paralyzed her with a strange, humming device and dragged her into the belly of their craft. Inside, the walls were pulsating with a sickly violet light. Momo found herself strapped to a cold metal table, surrounded by advanced machinery that hissed and groaned. She tried to scream, but her voice was caught in her throat. She felt a strange pressure building behind her eyes, a buzzing energy she had never felt before. Back at the tunnel, the Turbo Granny's curse had taken a bizarre turn. Instead of simply haunting Okarun, she had merged with him, her spectral energy twisting his form. His hair turned white, his eyes sank into dark hollows, and a heavy, melancholic power surged through his limbs. He felt a sudden, frantic tug in his gut. Momo was in danger. With a roar that sounded like a jet engine, Okarun took off. He wasn't running. He was a streak of supernatural lightning, tearing through the city streets toward the hospital. Inside the UFO, the Serpoians leaned over Momo, their strange instruments clicking. They spoke in a language that sounded like static and breaking glass. They wanted to study her, to dismantle the secrets of the human soul. One alien reached out a long, spindly hand toward her forehead. Momo felt a snap deep within her mind. "Get your hands off me," she roared. The psychic energy she'd inherited from her grandmother finally exploded outward. The surge of power was immense. Momo realized she could manifest giant, translucent hands that mimicked her own movements. With a flick of her wrist, she swatted a group of Serpoians across the lab like they were mere toys. The ship groaned under the weight of her psychic pressure. However, more aliens were flooding into the room, brandishing weapons that hummed with disintegrating energy. She was strong, but she was outnumbered and still pinned to the table. The ceiling of the laboratory suddenly buckled and tore open. A blur of white and black crashed through the metal, landing between Momo and the aliens with the force of a falling star. It was Okarun, but he looked like a creature out of a nightmare. He stood hunched, his breath coming in heavy, ghostly sighs. Before the Serpoians could fire, he vanished. In a split second, he reappeared behind them, his fists moving faster than the eye could follow, striking with the weight of the Turbo Granny's curse. "Okarun," Momo gasped, her psychic hands holding the remaining aliens at bay. Okarun turned his head, his dark, sunken eyes meeting hers. I've got you, Ayase," he rasped, his voice a double tone of his own and the Turbo Granny's. Together, they became a whirlwind of destruction. Momo's psychic aura threw the aliens into the air, and Okarun's supernatural speed ensured none of them hit the ground before being neutralized. They moved in a chaotic, perfect harmony. The UFO began to tilt, losing its hover as the systems failed. Okarun grabbed Momo, tucked her under his arm, and leaped through the hole in the ceiling. They tumbled onto the grass of the hospital grounds, just as the craft flickered and vanished back into the stars. As the sun began to peek over the horizon, the possession faded, and Okarun collapsed, exhausted. Momo sat up, brushing dust from her skirt. "So," she said, looking at the boy who had just saved her, "I guess we were both right." Okarun managed a weak smile. "Yeah, but I think I hate ghosts way more now."